Comparative advantage and gains from trade are the topics of this video. Specialization in trade. Why do people trade? Assume people didn't trade. What things would you have to go without? You do not produce everything you use yourself. Clothes, cars, cell phones, bananas, healthcare. Everyone specializes in the production of some goods and services and trades for others. What would life be like if people in cities couldn't trade with people in other cities, or people in states couldn't trade with people in other states? Limiting trade would reduce people's choices and make people worse off. More access to trade means more choices and a higher standard of living. Absolute and comparative advantage. Assume it costs you $50 to produce 5 t-shirts. What is your per unit cost for each shirt? $10 per shirt. Now take money out of the equation. Instead of producing 5 shirts, you could have made 10 hats. What's your per unit opportunity cost for each shirt in terms of hats given up? 1 shirt would cost 2 hats. What's your per unit opportunity cost for each hat in terms of shirts given up? 1 hat would cost a half of a shirt. Ronald McDonald can produce 20 pizzas or 200 burgers, and Papa John can produce 100 pizzas or 200 burgers. What is Ronald's opportunity cost for 1 pizza in terms of burgers given up? What's Ronald's opportunity cost for 1 burger in terms of pizza given up? What is Papa John's opportunity cost for 1 pizza in terms of burgers given up? And what is Papa John's opportunity cost for 1 burger in terms of pizza given up? And the answers are here. 1 pizza would cost 10 burgers for number 1. Number 2, 1 burger would cost a tenth of a pizza. Number 3, for Papa John, 1 pizza would cost 2 burgers. And number 4, 1 burger would cost a half of a pizza. Ronald has a comparative advantage in the production of burgers, and Papa John has a comparative advantage in the production of pizza. Absolute advantage means the producer that can produce the most output or requires the least amount of inputs or resources. Papa John has an absolute advantage in pizzas because he can produce 100 and Ronald can only make 20. Comparative advantage is the producer with the lowest opportunity costs. Ronald has a comparative advantage in burgers because he has the lowest per unit opportunity cost. Countries should trade if they have a relatively lower opportunity cost. They should specialize in the good that is cheaper for them to produce, the one where they have a comparative advantage. Here are a couple of production possibility graphs for the U.S. and for Brazil. And if the U.S. specializes in this graph and decides to make only wheat, Brazil makes only sugar, they could exchange and trade in order to increase their consumption of items in both countries. So after trade, the PPC is actually going to shift. Based on this chart, see if you can calculate the opportunity costs of wheat and sugar for both the U.S. and Brazil. You can pause the video and then I'll give you the answers. So for the U.S., the opportunity cost of 1 wheat costs 1 sugar. Of 30 sugars would be 1 sugar costs 1 wheat. So either the ratio doesn't change for the U.S. For Brazil, 1 wheat costs 2 sugars and 1 sugar costs a half of a wheat. Which country has a comparative advantage in wheat? So which country has the lower opportunity costs in producing wheat? That would be the U.S. So, because the U.S. has a comparative advantage in wheat, they're going to produce wheat and they'll import sugar. And because Brazil has a comparative advantage in sugar, Brazil is going to produce sugar and import wheat.